turn to page 19. And let's do number 26 together. Page 19, number 26. Now, we're going to find the value of the variable and the length of yz. So I'm going to highlight this just so we'll know what we're looking for. The value of the variable and the length of yz. If you remember what we were doing the other day, we want to sketch a picture of it. So we don't have, I mean, you can use your straight edge if you want to, but you don't have to. Let's just make a picture. All right? And they tell us that y is between x and z, right here. Y is between x and z. That's fine. Just keep in mind on the test or the quiz, there aren't going to be any lines to go by. So if that won't throw you off, then I don't mind it. All right? So if y is between x and z, let's put x at one end, z at the other, and then y somewhere here between them. And then we label the information that they give us. So the length of xy is 3a minus 4. So I'll label that as 3a minus 4. The length of yz is 6a plus 2. 6a plus 2. And the length of xz is 5a plus 22. So start at x, go all the way to z, and that's 5a plus 22. And if you recall from our examples that we had the other day, sometimes we set two things equal because they're equal to each other. That's not what we have here. The 3a minus 4 and the 6a plus 2, as far as, and the 5a plus 22, as far as we know, those are all three different lengths, right? But sometimes we make the equation by adding things up because we know what the result is. If I add the length of xy, which is this, to the length of yz, which is this, shouldn't I get the length of the whole thing? So that's how I'm going to get my equation. I'll write down the length of xy, 3a minus 4, plus, and then the length of yz, 6a plus 2, equals the length of the whole thing, which is 5a plus 22. That seem reasonable? All right. Now we've got to use our algebra skills to work it the rest of the way. So right now, any questions on coming up with this equation? All right. On the left side, well, on either side, you always want to simplify before you solve. So on the left side, we can combine like terms. What's 3a plus 6a? 9a. What's negative 4 plus 2? All right, so we've got a much simpler equation now. So now, I'm trying to get just one a term. I don't want two a terms in my equation. So I'm going to subtract 5a from both sides. Then on the left side, 9a minus 5a is 4a, bring down the negative 2, equals, on the right side, what's 5a minus 5a? 0. Bring down the 22. So subtracting 5a from both sides was a good idea, wasn't it? Now, I've only got one a term. I want to get it by itself. So I want to get rid of that negative 2. Well, the opposite of subtracting a 2 is adding a 2. So add 2 to both sides to get rid of it. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Bring down the 4a on the left, and then negative 2 plus 2 is 0, equals 22 plus 2 is 24. So a is going to equal 6. What operation did you do to get the 6? Yeah, you divide both sides by 4. On the left side, 4 divided by 4 is 1, leaving you with 1a, which we just call a. And then 24 divided by 4 is 6. We've done the first thing the directions told us to, which is to find the value of the variable. Yeah, question? I added together like terms. So I combined those two A terms together, 3A plus 6A is 9A, and then I combined these constants together. -4 plus 2 is -2. All right, what else were we supposed to do? Find the length of YZ. So I still need to do that. So the length of YZ equals 6A plus 2. They told us so. But now we know that A equals 6. So 6 times A becomes 6 times 6 plus 2. You with me? So that's 36 plus 2. So the length of YZ is 38. Now, when you're working an equation, I want you to show your work. I also want you to know that you don't have to write down. You don't have to write that down. You don't have to write that down. You don't have to write that down. After the first few days, I won't either. If you need to, then write it down. If that helps you get the correct answer, write it down. Over here, finding YZ, I could have done that in my head. So you don't have to write down every step I write down. You have to think every step I think. But some of us need to write things down, and some of us it messes us up because it just clutters the page. It makes it hard to look at, and it actually messes you up. So you do what you need to do. I do want to see work, but what I have showing now would be enough, okay? If you want to have everything I had the first time, then that's okay too. All right, we good with 26? All right, let's take a look at 34. It's involving a construction. All right, it says for each expression, we're supposed to construct a segment with the given measure, explain the process you used. I'll let you get away with not writing that. Any other question that you get asked today where it says explain, I want you to explain. On a construction, your explanation is going to be, I'm going to be able to see the marks on your paper, okay? So, look at part A here. Anybody know what that means? 34. What's that mean? 2 parentheses xy. 2 times xy. So they want us to construct a segment whose length is 2 times the length of xy. Here's how we do it. So, do this with me. Here's our answer to A. First of all, let's make a segment using your straight edge that's really long. Then we take our compass, and I need to use it to measure xy, don't I? So do not poke a hole in your book. Huh? Yeah, so don't poke a hole in your book, but measure the xy there with your compass. Are you supposed to poke a hole in your book? No, you are not. So without poking a hole in your book, stretch your compass out and get the length of xy onto your compass. All right? Once we've done that, everybody got xy on their compass? All right, put the point at the end of that big long segment you drew, like so. Make a mark. Now, that's the length of one xy, isn't it? How do I make 2 times xy? Do it again. Put your point there. Make your mark. And isn't that twice as long? Isn't the distance from one end to that last mark twice as long as the distance from x to y? So, we've done it. And I'll label it if I can get the compass far enough out of the way. I think that's far enough. So, they don't tell us what to call it. So what do you want to call it? Well, let's not use the same letters as they're in the... We can call that A. Let's skip that middle mark. Let's just call that one B. So isn't our segment AB 2 times as long as XY?
Yes.
And that's what they told us to do. Don't do it yet. You're going to get time in a minute. You see what you would do for B?
Yeah.
It's going to take some work, isn't it?
Yes.
But you're going to measure WZ, which is in your book, with your compass. Mark it off 6 times. That'll be 6 times WZ, and then come backwards the length of XY. So I'm going to let you do that. You can, or you can make a different one. It'd probably be easier to make a different one. Be fewer marks to confuse you. You want to go ahead and do that? Go ahead and do that. You try it, and I'll try it up here. Do 6 times WZ, and then subtract out an XY. Nah, leave them on there. Anybody's look about like mine does? All right, so take a look. First, I had to measure and make 6 WZs. So there's one of them, there's the second one, there's the third one, fourth one, fifth one. That's 6. So right there then, from point C to point D is 6 times WZ. Then I needed to subtract out the length of XY. So then I went and measured the length of XY again. So I come back here and put point E. So that means that the length of CE is 6 times WZ minus XY. Yeah, ignore that. All right, we're still doing okay? All right, let's do number 42 together. It says a 36-foot long ribbon is cut into 3 pieces. The first piece of ribbon is half as long as the second piece of ribbon. The third piece is 1 foot longer than twice the length of the second piece of ribbon. How long is the longest piece of ribbon? Notice, and I highlighted it, the first piece is compared to the second piece, and the third piece is compared to the second piece. That tells me I want to call the second piece X. And then I'll figure out expressions for the others. You're going to have to write this down. So here's what you write down. We let X equal length of second piece. We'll see. The first piece is half as long as the second piece. So the first piece is half as long as X. How do we write down half of X? Yeah, X divided by 2, I'm just going to do 1/2 X. So that equals the length of the first piece. Now the third piece is the complicated part here. The third piece is 1 foot longer than twice the length of the second piece. 1 foot longer than twice X. All right, since X is the length of the second piece. How would you write twice X? 2X. What's 1 more than 2X? Plus 1. So 2X plus 1 is the length of the third piece. So yeah, the third piece is going to be the longest piece. And we have to find its length. All right, now that I've got these, if I add the 3 pieces together, how long is it? So I need to add them all together and make it equal 36. Now, we have options here on our equation. It's been my experience that most students do not like to work with fractions if it's avoidable. So I'm going to show you how to get rid of them here. Let me scooch this over a little bit. And you can do a decimal, okay? But I can get rid of the fractions and decimals by doing something here. I'm allowed to do something to an equation as long as I do it to both sides, right? Isn't 2 times 1/2 1? So to get rid of that 1/2, I can multiply it by 2, but I got to multiply everything by 2 if I do that. So 2 times the left side, 2 times the right side. Now remember the distributive property from algebra?
Yeah.
No, you can work with the fraction if you want. So you can do 2 times x and get 2x. And then 2 times 1/2 x would be 1x, or just x. 2 times 2x is 4x. 2 times 1 is 2. On the other side, 36 times 2 is 72. No more fractions or decimals to mess with. Now, do you have to use this technique? No, you don't. But it's easier now. So 2x, now let's do what we did earlier. Let's combine like terms. 2x plus x is 3x, plus 4x is 7x, plus 2 equals 72. No, don't divide by 2. Subtract 2, and you don't have to write it down, but I get 7x equals 70 when I subtract 2 from both sides, right? Yeah. Divide both sides by 7, x equals 10. Now the question was to find the longest piece of the ribbon. Well, that third piece was 2x plus 1. So that'll be 2 times 10 plus 1. 20 plus 1 is 21. And it's all in feet, so 21 feet. All right. Questions? Here's your assignment. On page 18, 5 through 9, which I think we've already done. 21 through 26, we've done 26. 34, we did that one together. 42 through 45, we did 42 together. And construct a copy of a segment. So just when you're done with all this, just put your own segment on your paper and then construct a copy of it. Just for practice in the construction. No, you're not confused. You know what that is, right?
Yeah, you said that we'd already done some of them.
Right, you don't have to redo the ones we've done. You wrote them down. Once you're done with those, then make up a segment of whatever length you want, use your straight edge, put it on your paper, then construct one congruent to it. That's what this last part means.